Thanks for hanging out with us today on the Family Brand Podcast. But wait, before you go, I want to give you something. It's something I stole out of our Family Brand Academy because I thought it would make a big difference for you, and I want you to have it for free, no strings attached. It's how we run our family meetings, and not just our family meetings that we have every week, but also our family check-ins, which is this system we've developed for how to connect with our kids and each other, Chris and I, every single week. And we've had some great outcomes with this. Not only have we, but a lot of families that have implemented this have as well. Actually, life-changing outcomes, if I'm being honest. You'll definitely want to get this. Go get your copy at familybrand.com/meeting, and we will catch you next time. So Chris was out of town last week, and when he's out of town, sometimes I feel like that's the only time you and I really watch shows, is if I'm out of town. You binged something when I was out of town recently. I don't remember what it was.
I can't remember.
And then Chris is out of town, and I was looking for a show to watch while I did the dishes. And I just so happened to get on Hulu, and I saw, there's this new docu-series about Ruby Franke, and it's called like The Devil in Our House, basically the story of Ruby Franke. And Ruby Franke is an influencer on YouTube, I guess you could say. She and her family, they had a YouTube channel called 8 Passengers. And at the height of their channel had like 2.8 million subscribers, and they just documented their family. And it was the most fascinating docuseries that I've seen maybe ever. And I think because as I was watching it, I was just thinking about families and family development and family dynamics. And there was so much to take away from this docuseries for families. You know, they say success leaves clues. This would be the opposite of not success, because currently Ruby Franke is in prison for 30 years for child abuse. And so and this all happened like, this huge YouTube following, 2.8 million subscribers. In the docuseries, they said at one point they were making $100,000 a month just from YouTube.
Insane.
Yes.
And it started out with a really good intention.
Yes.
From what you shared, like her whole intention in the beginning was, I want to build and strengthen families, similar to your mission with Family Brand. And like our mission is like, I want to show people that you can have a strong family and that's possible.
Totally. And I think that, just another reason why this has been so fascinating for me to watch this. And at the end, that's where they started 10 years later. Like, that's how quickly things changed for their family. And so I'm like, wow, what an interesting case study of family and family dynamics. And I'm sure there's a ton of other things at play that are not on the documentary that we won't know. And so we're just taking this little picture that we have and trying to glean a few takeaways that I think can be really beneficial for other families. But I'm not here to say like, I have this all figured out or anything like this. I just thought it'd be really cool to share our personal takeaways. We've had some super interesting conversations, what we can learn from watching this docuseries. There's a lot. Okay, so let's just start where Chris kind of started just now. Is one thing that really stuck out to me is that she started the YouTube channel with the intention of showing what a successful, thriving family looks like. And that just struck me as so interesting that it is similar to my kind of desire for Family Brand, is showing like, how to be a strong family and sharing like systems and sharing, content around that. And I think there's a few things that I feel like kind of started creating this path away from that. I'm going to talk about some of those, but it was just struck me as so interesting that I feel like she really started from a really good place, like a heartfelt place, wanting to serve other families.
Yeah, I think you had like, do you just want to run through the questions that occurred for you, and as a result of watching it, that led to some of the conversations we ended up having?
Yes. So a couple of questions or takeaways that I had is, am I sharing online and in my life, am I sharing real, authentic things? They kind of started showing that as time went on, of course, you're creating content for millions of people, and it's like sometimes you have to just be like making up content. And it just showed us sometimes that, what was shown online was a lot different than what was actually happening in the family. And sometimes the kid didn't want to do the YouTube show, or the film that day or whatever, but they kind of had to because, that's how they were making a lot of money. But it just had me be thinking, am I showing my authentic life, or am I just trying to make it look pretty and not showing realness? Like, what life is really like. And I think I do a pretty good job of that. But one interesting thing is I don't always feel like I don't always get like done up for the day. Like I'm not like full hair and makeup every day kind of girl. And it did have me think about so sometimes I throw a filter on, like if I'm talking on Instagram, and it just had me think like maybe I'll stop doing that. Like maybe I'll keep it like more real and more like less filters and just more real, because that is real.
Yeah, that was an interesting conversation that we had is in the beginning, I guess, of this YouTube channel that Ruby had, 8 Passengers, she would only show the good. And even the good that she showed, come to find out a lot of that was even manufactured, like we have to be stage ready. We have to, and then using your children almost as props, using your children as strategic chess pieces for you, for your business. And yeah, I think that's something that Melissa and I've tried to be really sensitive to is we don't want to do that. And I even, there's some people that I follow that at times I watch what they do and how they present their children and and it's just, and I don't even think sometimes maybe they're consciously aware of it. And I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. This is just my perception, but it just doesn't occur to me as like healthy or maybe the most useful thing for the children, or that they even have any of their, their children's consent. And I find that there are so many quote unquote thought leaders or influencers who on the surface, things look really amazing. And they show you these really incredible aspects of their lives and how much money they're making and the kind of homes they live in and the kind of cars they drive and the type of relationship that they have with their significant other, their children. And there's been so many of them that, you come to find out it's like none of it's real or very little of it's real. There was a really famous author, a woman a while back who New York Times bestselling author. And like a month before they announced their divorce, her and her husband are still promoting these like marriage retreats because we've created such an incredible marriage. And, and then I know way too many, unfortunately, male influencers in what I call the bro alpha male space who, and it's so sad to see these oftentimes what I've experienced 20 and 30-year-old guys who just get so sucked in by the allure of the money and the fame and the cars and the homes. And they're following these dudes that, quite frankly, a lot of people actually know that behind the scenes are just complete like dirtbags. Like it wouldn't take much more than a Google search to find it out. Like, and and one of the things I think we talked a lot about too is like, and I know we're going to get to this, but being really, really cautious actually and careful and intentional about who you follow and who you choose to allow to influence you. And so I think to bring it back to this, it's like one of the things maybe is how authentic are they? How much do they share? Maybe the struggles and the challenges and the things that they don't have right. And that was a takeaway from Melissa and I. We've tried to be committed since the beginning of this podcast to share real life, like where we're winning, where we're not, where we feel like we're making progress and where we're not.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect transition to the next one. So the first takeaway for us was how are we being real and authentic in our communications online. And second is, who are we allowing to influence us? Because I think it's twofold. Someone might have followed 8 Passengers with this idea of like, I want to be like them. I want to be the perfect family. I want to do everything they do. And second of all, part of the story is Ruby brought on a business partner that I think anyone would say was not a good influence for their family, and kind of, in fact, tore their family apart a little bit. But they made that conscious decision to like bring that person literally into their home. Like she ended up moving in with the family at one point. The business partner did, and they invited that into their home, and they started, following her and her teachings. But she, I think it's interesting, like you're saying, not just looking at a couple of things that these people that you kind of hold on a pedestal have, like, oh, they have money or they have cars, but looking at their whole picture. Think, are they living the type of life that I would want for myself? Like wholly, not just like a couple of the things, but in its entirety. Are they a good person living the kind of life that I would want to have and I would want to follow?
Yeah, I can't speak to this as much from a like female perspective, but I can tell you that in my mind, coming from the male perspective and what I've I would say what I've fallen victim to and prey to at times over the years, and who I'm influenced by and who I want to follow. And what I see a lot is there's a lot of men, again, especially in their 20s, 30s, probably 40s as well, who will turn a blind eye to almost everything else so long as they believe that this particular person is going to help them make money and have fame and have status and cars and like really, and really the saddest part is like, that's actually not what any of these men actually want. They just want to feel like they're enough. And it's not even they're not even going to get it through that, but they'll almost turn a blind eye. Like it blows my mind. I've seen a couple of people that I know recently post about a guy that they went to and spent time with this guy and are raving about him. And, you do a quick Google search and the guy's like tons of sexual harassment claims, divorced multiple times, hasn't had a relationship with some of his kids. And it's like, now granted, if you want to say, hey, I would almost have more respect for someone that says, hey, I know this guy's a complete dirtbag in all these other areas of his life, and he's really successful at this, and this is what I'm choosing to follow him for and be influenced by. Fine. And it's amazing though how many things we'll turn a blind eye to. And so for me, I've just learned I want to follow someone who is either living at a certain standard or trying to live at a certain standard in all the domains of their life that are also important to me. So it's not just who are they as a business owner and around success, but also who are they as a husband, as a father, as who are they in their faith, in their spirituality, who are they around their health. And I'm not saying that we can't learn from people who have made mistakes. Sometimes those are the most powerful, profound people to learn from because they've made mistakes. They're very authentic about them, about those mistakes, and they've changed their ways and have sustained it for a long period of time. And that one to me is the key. And again, by your fruits, you shall know them. I have to think of my sister, Kristen, who we've talked about before and had on the podcast. Kristen is making a profound difference for men and women who are getting out of prison or struggling with addiction because that was her own journey. But I think Kristen has earned the right to have a voice because it wasn't like she struggled, turned her life around for 3 to 6 months and then all of a sudden started teaching it. No, she was in prison for 5 years and used that time to like change her life and has continued to. I just am always interested when I'm thinking about who am I influenced by, how much time have they put between these challenges or these, failures they've had, just like we all have had, but how much time have they been able to actually, it's like, hey, look, if you want to come and preach to me about how to treat my queen, which I don't know why it's so funny to me that so many of the bro alpha guys refer to themselves as kings and refer to their wives or significant others as queens. It's actually the biggest red flag for me. It's like, oh, okay, like done, not following you. Like, yeah, you say
My
king and
queen.
queen, it's like you're immediately like probably throwing your wife's stuff out on the lawn, which literally, one of these douchebags like just got reported doing in social media. I don't have a whole lot of tolerance for it. But it's like, okay, if you've been one of those guys and you want to come talk to me about how to be a great husband and father, how to treat my queen, man, maybe sustain that for at least 5 years in your own life, then come talk to me, But I think that's like anything, like earn the right to have a voice, earn the right to have a platform, earn the right to doesn't mean you can't pour into anyone at any time, but man, if you're going to go lead people and try to have influence, but I've done that before. I've gotten enamored with people and followed them, kind of didn't realize I was turning a blind eye to maybe other areas of their life that I really should have checked out to see if that's someone I want to be influenced by.
You said something interesting earlier that maybe if someone consciously goes into let's just say a business coaching relationship, knowing okay, they don't have the life necessarily the relationships with their family that I would want, but they do have a good business coaching program. So I'm going to compartmentalize the two. Do you really think you can? Because it reminds me of this idea that is widely accepted as you become the 5 people you spend the most time with. So.
No, I don't think you can. And I don't recommend that. I'm saying I would actually have though more respect for someone who at least was authentic enough to say, hey, yeah, I know that this person doesn't live to a standard over here in this area of their life that's important to me. And I'm consciously aware of that. I still don't think it's useful. I think if you're going to seek out a mentor, if you're going to seek out a coach, if you're going to seek out someone that you are consciously allowing yourself to be influenced by And in a way, you're allowing that, you're bringing that into your home, so to speak. Maybe not to the degree, obviously, Ruby did, where she literally, but you're bringing that into your home, into your marriage, into your children. I would recommend that you seek out someone who is living as a demonstration in all the areas of life that are important to you as well.
Yeah. What I want to take this same idea of who are we allowing to influence me, you, our family, just a slightly different direction, because I feel like we can really speak from experience here. Is that one of the things that happened with Ruby is this: she got involved with this woman, this business partner, but a part of that was kind of this, I don't even know what it was exactly, but it was this, she had a lot of programs and coaching, and Chris and I have done that before. We've gotten involved in, and we had this funny conversation. We've gotten involved in coaching programs that are kind of all encompassing for a time. And it's like really high, it requires a lot of involvement. It requires a lot of attention and time, commitment. Yes. And
And they're marketed as like, these are transformational programs, like transformative. Like, you're not going into these like, oh, I'm going to make a tweak here or there. The intention and the way they're sold is this will transform your life.
and we were just talking, because it did kind of come up in the docuseries that perhaps they had done something similar to that. It just got us talking about our experience with going into coaching in that way, and realizing, like, I think you do have to go into that also with eyes wide open, knowing like, hey, we're going to have a lot of new ideas placed before us, and maybe to not accept them all like at face value, like 100%, like as truth, and really still making sure you are being discerning about, again, who or what is influencing you. So it might not even be a person, but it could be an entire program, or yeah, something that you're willingly like joining, but being careful about even that, like being careful.
Yeah, and it's really easy for any of us, I think, especially when we're maybe in a place where in our lives where we're really seeking for something. Like, maybe we're struggling in around finances, so we're really seeking truth, or we're struggling in our marriage, so we're really seeking help, or we're struggling in our confidence, so we're really, it makes you, it makes you hungrier, which is, can be really useful, because like, I want to change this, but it also makes you, in my mind, more impressionable and more vulnerable. And I think it's really easy to have that coach or that coaching program or that coaching community or that mentor start to almost become your God that you worship. And it becomes the source of all truth, instead of remembering, no, I am the source. And this thing that I'm seeking out is going to be a supplement to the source, which is easier said than done. And it's so easy to get caught up and get pulled into something, just, yeah, so deeply. There was something I was just going to share that we had a fascinating conversation the other night, and I completely lost my train of thought as we were going with.
About when I did.
No, just on this idea of, yeah, when you seek out programs, when you seek out a community, yeah, just being careful that, like, how much am I going to allow this to influence me? How much am I going to allow this to become like my identity, versus like taking the pieces out of it that serve you, but also being okay with like leaving some of the rest. Oh, I know what I was going to say. This might sound controversial, might offend some people, it might trigger you, but if it does, it's probably because you need to hear it. Just like I would have needed to hear this along my journey. I used to go to an event, like a mastermind or a men's immersion or a coaching program. And I would literally, probably without realizing it now in hindsight, take on like the personality and the way of being of that person. I was so impressionable. And I would come back and be like, my whole life has changed. Everything's changed. I'm now going to be the husband of the year and the father of the decade, or like, whatever it is, like whatever we were doing good before, we're 10xing it. Whatever I wasn't doing good before, I'm going to start doing it. And I realized that there's as much risk and danger in that as there is usefulness, because what that says to me, what I realized in hindsight, is I was so lost on who I was that I was willing to adopt anyone else's idea or philosophy that I thought had a little bit like more prestige than me. And I realized I don't think it's actually a really great thing. And I think it's maybe a concern to like look at. If you go to any kind of weekend or week-long thing and it transforms everything, that might mean that you could know more about who you are. Like, I don't think that a weekend we go to or a week-long thing, or I don't think it should change every single aspect of my life anymore. I don't think it should be like, I do think I could walk away and be like, wow, that was really useful. That was really incredible. Like, there were some pieces of that that I'm able to take and add on to who I'm becoming. But I'll just tell you how it occurred for me is like the reason those every time I would go, it would be so transformative and it would be so life changing. It was because I had no idea who I was going into it. Which there's some usefulness in going to things from that place, and there's also a lot of danger and risk in going to things from that place because you are so people can almost get you to believe whatever they want you to believe, and you believe kind of whatever you want to believe. And so I'd just be cautious of you don't need a coach, a mentor, a program, a thing to change every single thing in your world. And I think that's going back to the docu-series about Jody or Ruby. She was in that place of just like, I think the reason she was so easily influenced, and the reason she like literally took a human being who wasn't good for their family, who pretty dark energy, and literally moved them into their home, is because I bet if we got down to the surface of it, Ruby had no idea who she was, and so badly wanted fame and prestige and validation because she thought that'd make her enough. When if someone could have just helped her see, no, you are enough. And yeah, go to this coaching community, but like, and get some nuggets from it. Like, find some things that are useful, but don't allow it to like shape your identity. Don't allow it to become. And it's just so interesting to me. Like, I can watch now, and it's usually younger entrepreneurs. I can predict, like they say, like I can see them on day one, like, hey, I'm at this thing. I'm like, oh geez, I might have to unfollow them for like in the next, 3 or 4 weeks, because they're just going to become the clone of that dude that they just went and saw. And so now I'm going to have 2 of those dudes showing up on my feed. Now, if I like the dude, I guess that's one thing, but especially if I know the dude that they're going to go see and I'm like, oh, this guy's like I'm not a big fan. I know that they're literally going to become him. And I've done it before. And so, yeah, I think you just got to go into these things like eyes wide open, but having some knowledge of who you are and what you hold true and what your values are, that you're not going to be shaken from that.
I think, again, that's perfect segue into another takeaway is, are we clear on that very thing, like who we are, whether that's individually, it's probably both who we are individually, who we are as a family, and do we have some type of system in place where we are looking over that and coming back to center like every so often, because of, you do, families change and things change, as time goes on, and it's easy to look up one day and be like, oh, I think we're a little off track. Like, let's bring it back. Let's come back to center. But if you don't have it, like, I think clearly defined about what is center, who are we, it's easy to kind of get off track and not even realize it and not have anything to even come back to, because you haven't clearly articulated what that is, what we are.
Yeah, the word as you were saying that, I actually was in my mind, like, come back to center, but as I was thinking about being grounded, and there's kind of, when I think about being grounded, it's like, I've got my stake in the ground, like I've planted my flag about who I am. We've planted our family's flag, like we're grounded, which the opposite of being grounded is you're not secured down. And so you just drift. Like there's, in the springtime in Arizona, there's some pretty bad windstorms that can come through here. The wind can be pretty gnarly in the spring. And sometimes you'll see trampolines like, oh, that trampoline used to be in their backyard. Now it's in the neighbor's front yard. And it's like, and then some people, like, secure their trampoline to the ground, like it's grounded. And so no matter how strong the forces or the winds, or it's like, man, I'm immovable. And I don't mean that. I think it's useful to open, adaptable, flexible. But I think there's a difference between being open, adaptable, and flexible than you can, like, literally, you get to decide who I am and who my family is, and I'll just change at a moment's notice and become whatever I need to be. It's like, no, that's dangerous. And I also think there's nothing wrong. Like, I would now, and I do operate now from this place. I just attended an incredible mastermind over the weekend. It was incredible. But I attend masterminds now. I attend events. I attend weekend retreats. I go into coaching from this place of, I know who I am. There's nothing they have to offer me that I don't already have in me. And they might be able to get me access to it a little bit quicker, but I don't need them. And I'm still choosing to go because I know that there's more for me to learn. Versus I used to just go and be like, take me, like, I'm all yours. Whatever you want me to be, I'll be. Whatever I need to do to get your approval. And it's like, man, like, and that's what a power to teach our children from a young age, of like teaching them a sense of like their identity and who they are, so that when they go out into the world, they can take the pieces from anyone or anything that are useful for them and then call BS on the rest and be like, you know, I was actually really proud of Tate, our oldest son. He's going to do summer sales this summer, and which I think is going to be incredible for him at such a young age. And he went over the weekend up to Utah.
He's 17. He'll be 18 this summer. He's going to be a senior.
And so he went up there for some training. I've kind of drugged Tate, would you say, like personal development, business events, like most of his life, like
at least the last 10 years of his life. So yeah, since he was 7.
He's spoken at some of them, like he's a lot of like, so, and so I feel like Tate is pretty aware of who he is to some degree. And he's pretty perceptive of like people and their authenticity or inauthenticity and culture. And
but he hasn't gotten his identity at those events. Like, I think that has helped like hone his ability to feel comfortable at those events and know how to like be at them. But I just want to interject. His identity has come though through he's done a lot of work like at the house. Like, who am I? Who do I want to be? And he's very clear. He has like his manifesto and document thing that he comes back to on reviews, and he knows who he is.
Totally. And to his credit, and a lot of our kids' credit, but to Tate's credit especially, Melissa and I have encouraged it and provided, like, I would say, the opportunities, and he's seen us do a lot of work, but he just brought himself to it. Like,
yeah.
And so it was cool when when he got home, I was fascinated, and I wasn't fascinated with, hey, how did it go? Which I was fascinated with Tate's experience of how it went. And I loved that he was like, yeah, like there's some stuff that wasn't for me. Like I saw some guys that you could tell, like they need people to know how successful they are and how cool they are. And he was like, yeah, I experienced a lot of inauthenticity and just, like actual, probably people who were self-conscious, but and then I saw some guys who were real and authentic. And here's what I liked about the company's leadership and what I perceived in their culture. Here's what I didn't. And that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that I'm raising kids who are way more confident in who they are than I was, who are way less open to just be blown about by the winds of influence because of how they perceive someone, and be a bit, more grounded. But I was really grateful I didn't even have to watch the Ruby docuseries because I got every detail and then some from Melissa. And it's actually been almost it's amazing to experience it. But, and at the end of the day, you look at that and you're like, how horrifically, tragically sad. Like 2 women are in prison for 30 years because of some, like, they did some horrific things to some very beautiful, innocent children. And it started actually with a great intention and a great desire to like become better human beings, level up in their lives, share their gifts and talents with the world, which I think that would almost describe almost all of us, by not probably understanding more of who they were and being so open to being influenced by people that, if they were to really look, probably wouldn't be the best people to be influenced by. And I've experienced enough of that to see how it can happen. Like I've gone down those paths a little bit where it's like, oh, I'm going in a direction here that I don't think is actually going to serve me or my family. And when I really look at this person who I'm allowing to influence me, it's like, yes, not someone I actually want to be influenced by, but it's so easy. And so I guess I would say for me, a big takeaway in this is the power of knowing to a degree, not with 100% certainty, but knowing to a degree of who you really believe you are and the values you really hold. Number 2, knowing that no one has anything to offer you that you have to have or that you don't already have in you. And that doesn't mean that there aren't people out there who can help you. You don't need them. Like, and you don't want to operate from a place of neediness and needing them. And I would say number 3 is there's nothing out there that is ever going to compensate for a lack of something in here. And I think so many of the reasons we pursue things out there is like, well, because if I get this, then I'll be enough. If I accomplish that, then I'll matter. If the world perceives me and my family as this, then we'll, make a difference. It's like, no, nothing out there. It's like you being enough and mattering and having worth and belonging. That's all already in you. And I think if I could have learned and realized some of those things, yeah, it would have just been really useful in my journey of personal growth and development.
We're just barely scratching the surface of all the other things that I've made Chris talk about.
Maybe this needs to be a series.
But there are, and we won't get into it because this is already like one of our longest episodes in recent time, but there are some other things too, I think, about husband and wife dynamics. And okay, maybe one thing I'll say is in this story, the dad just kind of lets his wife kind of tell him what to do, and he just listens. And eventually he moves out of the house and doesn't have any contact with his wife or children for over a year. And one takeaway for me is I think that we, as parents, we have to fight for our families. And it just struck me as like, I can't believe he didn't fight for his kids, that he didn't, again, I don't have the full picture, but from what I'm seeing, I can't believe that he just walked out and didn't stay and didn't like, yeah, fight for his kids. And I think we all, as parents, have the opportunity to like, to do that for our kids. I don't know if I'm explaining this point very well, but that just struck me. And it struck me that watching that, I was like, Chris would never do that. Like he, Ruby's husband, I think I had just gotten to a point where he just did whatever Ruby said, basically. But I was like, Chris would never just do what I say. But I think that's a good thing because it's like, if he felt like something was off, he would stand up and he would be like, this isn't right. Like we need to make a course correction. So that was another thing. Like, am I standing up for my kids in that way? And yeah, am I taking feedback too from Chris? And are we taking feedback from each other and in our relationship?
Yeah, it's also this idea of, and I know you would do the same, but it's like, if I see something at home, in my kid's school, in their friends, like whatever it is, like that, I'm like, no, this doesn't align with who we are. Like, I'm gonna say something. Like, this isn't right. This doesn't work. Like, fight for my kids, fight for my family, but also for yourself. Like, if you're like, you don't have to go just because someone's a supposed thought leader or coach, or because an event is amazing. You don't have to go and accept every single thing that every person says is truth. There can be a time where you're like, no, I don't agree with that, like that. And you might have to fight for yourself, right? But it's amazing what you can get, human beings to do with enough like social pressure and enough like comparison and like, well, I need my family to look like that. I need people to think this about me. I need to achieve, this. And so, but yeah, if you really think about it, so much of Ruby's demise really started with like, I need to look good. I need people to think I'm a great mom and we have a great family. And I think that's in all of us. Like, I've never met a human being who doesn't have a desire to look good. And I think that can really be dangerous if it's not checked. So I think it started with, I need to look good. I need people to see me a certain way.
I need my children to look good.
Totally. And she just sadly, at a really vulnerable time, decided to allow herself to be influenced as well by your fruits. By their fruits you shall know them. It comes out like that this woman, Jody, who was influencing her, was like divorced from her husband, estranged from her kids. Like, there were some real like red flags. And she's like, oh, this woman who doesn't have any relationship with her own family, I think I'll let her come and really have a strong influence in my family. She allowed this woman to like counsel, be a counselor to one of her children when this woman doesn't even have a relationship with her own children. It's just like, and sometimes you ask, like, why would we do that? Or why would she do that? Why do we do it? Look at some of the people you follow on social media. Look at some of the people that I follow. Like, and you ask yourself, like, man, is this really someone that I want to be influenced by? Is this someone that really, like, when I look at their fruits, is that what I want?
And yeah, I think the other deeper thing too is she had like lost licenses and had a lot of like, just like you said, with a simple Google search.
What can a Google search? It's amazing. Like, we got to talk about this because, again, I saw some people that I know on social media posting about some alpha bro things they were doing. Melissa and I both just went into quick Google searches and we're like, what? Like, it's just, but again, I think it's like, I'm not even going to look over there because I don't want to even know that. I want this thing they have. I want this prestige. I want this money. I want this. And our desire to look good is so strong. And our desire to prove our worth and that we're enough is so strong. We'll literally do insane things. And in hindsight, people are probably like, why would you let a woman who's lost her licenses in counseling, who doesn't even have a great relationship with her own family, who has some serious red flags, why would you allow her in your home? But it's like, well, what are we allowing in our home? Through people we follow online, accounts we follow, where it's like, yeah. I don't think for us, any of the takeaways in this is we have a bunch of answers. I think it was just really useful for us to just say, okay, like, it's an opportunity for us to look and recognize, yeah, there's some opportunities for us to upgrade who we're allowing to influence our family. But I think it also had Melissa and I'd be like, who do we want to be as quote unquote influencers out there in the world? Like, how do we want people to experience our influence? Each other, our children, people in our communities, our companies. Because I would hope to be someone that someone looks to and is like, that's a guy that I want to be influenced by. And I'm obviously not for everyone, like, but that was a big thing for me, is like, how well am I doing?
I think that would be leaving it with a takeaway today, really looking at your life and asking the hard question of, who am I allowing to influence me? Who am I allowing to influence my family? And maybe that means taking an inventory of the TV shows we're watching, or the books that we're reading, the people we're following online, the programs that we're joining. Yeah. And really looking at it and be like, hey, is there any of these that are misaligned? And I think secondly would be, well, if you don't know who you are, how would you know if they're misaligned? Would be, am I clear on who we are as a family? Am I clear on who I am? My family, what are my family values, and like who are we as Smiths, or fill in your last name? It would be some really great homework for this week.
One last PS takeaway. If you are ever thinking about attending an Alpha Bro conference, get in touch with me first and I'll give you my unbiased opinion.
In case you didn't already get that from the vote here.
Have a blessed week, everyone.
Bye.
Welcome to the Family Brand Show. We're Chris and Melissa Smith of FamilyBrand.com, husband and wife, parents of 5, and we want to help you take back your family and to live life on your terms.
And we know being a family can feel really overwhelming. Parents tell us they feel like they're being pulled in a million different directions. It's so challenging to navigate the uncertainty and all the chaos that's happening in the world right now.
And that's why we want to bring you every single week actionable tips and strategies that you can implement in your daily life to become a better parent, to become a better spouse, and to build a stronger family. And look, there's never been a better time and a more important time than right now to take back your family. You can define what your family stands for, or the world is going to do it for you. And the world needs strong families now more than ever. And it starts right here with your family.